New on Curiosity Stream. Deformed trees, mutated wildlife, and no humans for miles. 10 years after the disaster at Fukushima, see what this irradiated ecosystem can teach us about nuclear fallout on Radioactive Forest. Plus, looking for the most diverse marine life on the planet? Dive into the Coral Triangle and experience a frenzy of wildlife you've got to see to believe on nature's greatest secret. It's all on Curiosity Stream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit curiositystream.com.
Wenatchee is gorgeous in the spring with its lush green rolling hills, abundant wildflowers everywhere, and the views of the Columbia River. The local food scene offers an abundant selection of authentic international cuisines featuring the unique farm-fresh ingredients of the region. Wenatchee is also home to award-winning wines, handcrafted hard ciders, and a talented handful of local brewers producing fine craft beers. Visit Wenatchee, the heart of Washington State.
Hey, this is BJ. Thanks for listening to our show's podcast. If you're a fan of all things geeky, you should check out my other podcast, BJ Shea's Geek Nation. We have new episodes every day, and you can check it out at bjgeeknation.com.
Your home is going into foreclosure and you feel like a financial wreck. You don't know where to turn for accurate information. I'm bankruptcy attorney Travis Gagne. Let's talk about some legal options. If we work quickly, we can propose a plan to save your home, modify the loan, or in many cases even eliminate your second mortgage. The consultation is free. I've helped hundreds of people just like you make informed decisions about whether to save their home or exit it on a reasonable, organized timeline. The chapter you choose sets the tone for the next chapter of your life. Please contact me today at choosetherightchapter.com. That's choosetherightchapter.com.
99.9 KISW, The Rock of Seattle. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little shiny today.
Is that so?
It's a little luster. It's as if Midas might have touched me today, giving me that golden hue.
I don't know. I'm feeling like my body parts hurt, like I'm a 50-year-old man or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Back hurts.
Right. Oh, yeah.
My radio station knees are kind of hurting.
Wow. All right.
It's hard for this radio station body to get out of bed.
Is that what's happening?
Yes.
Okay. Well, both of those descriptions are true, as today is the day we celebrate KISW's 50th, 50th anniversary. And oh man, what a celebration we have for you today.
Dude, just driving in, it kind of like hit. I don't know about you guys, but it's been like, okay, cool. I'm not a super nostalgic guy. Like, I don't really get worked up about many big things. But then I was driving in, I get off the freeway, and like there's a building right outside of our in downtown Seattle that typically has a heart. With the lights on.
Oh, the Renaissance Hotel.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And all of a sudden I look up at it and it has the number 50. And I'm like, what's that? Oh, yeah, that's really cool. It just kind of like, it's like one of those moments where like, okay, this is a big deal to us, but it's really cool to see that the city also, like, at least the Renaissance, recognizes how cool that is.
Yeah, I was very, very surprised to see that, because the Renaissance always celebrates things like when the Hawks were in the playoffs, you see them do the 12.
You just see a heart, a 12, or nothing else.
Yeah, that's it. And they gave us the big 5-0, which, thank you, Renaissance Hotel. I suspect that a lot of people are going to celebrate in this, because it is quite an accomplishment, and especially for a musical city like Seattle, that it can appreciate anything that celebrates the music of this fine city. And KISW has done that, and wow, for 50 years, man.
Yes.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It is. It's a pretty cool moment, man. And especially because I think back about all the great memories with all the listeners and just the experiences that we've gotten to share. Like pretty much the last 15, 16 years of our lives have just been out there for people to hear about, and knowing that we've made a connection in some way, shape, or form with people just means the world to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and about 34 years ago they made a mistake and hired us, which is so weird. You know what I mean? Like, we've been here that long ourselves. This is just nuts.
See, we proved to them that we weren't going to run it to the ground.
Yeah, I know it was said. I know. You're absolutely right.
Some thought they brought us on board just to kill the radio station.
Yes, they did. And you may be right. We're just doing it slowly.
Yes.
Very slowly. Because you know what? We can't even do that right? I mean, we're such a bad show that we can't even be bad properly.
We're failures at failing.
Yeah, we are. So today is KISW's 50th anniversary, which is brought to you by our good friends at Palace Law. And there's a lot of things that are going to be talked about today, a lot of celebrations, but I surely want to give a lot of love to Palace Law. Patrick Palace and his team have been such great supporters of this radio station. I mean, we have a wonderful business relationship with them, but it's transcended that. I mean, Patrick is an ambassador of awesome at every event that I've seen him at, and he is just so happy to be involved with this station. And I am, of course, if you said to me, hey, who do you think would love to be involved in celebrating the 50th? Of course it would be Palace. Mm-hmm. And so we are so happy that Palace Law is part of our 50th anniversary. A lot of other folks are, too, who have helped make this city great with the fine services they provided. And, of course, they've been along the way with us for a lot of these 50 years. And all day long, all day, you're going to be hearing stories from past KISW personalities. I'm so excited to be able to do these with you. Rock stars are going to be joining us more. We're going to be celebrating 50 years of The Rock. And we thought the story that we should hear first is from a gentleman by the name of Joe Coburn. Now, who's Joe Coburn? 50 years ago, Joe was KISW's first ever employee and first on-air personality. And here's Joe sharing his memories of the beginnings of The Rock.
Prior to 1971, there were almost no FM radios. Not in cars or homes or even boats. People thought FM was the weather band. The first time I told a waitress I was an FM DJ, she said she didn't like classical music. The reason for that was a fellow named David Sarnoff. He was the CEO of RCA and the holder of the patent for AM radio transmitters and receivers. Sarnoff would not grant the license to make AM radios to anyone who wanted to make FM radios as well. And he kept the inventor of FM hamstrung in legal battles until his retirement in 1969. Only imported cars, Cadillacs, and Lincolns had FM radios in the U.S. It was then, in 1969, that Lester Smith and Pat O'Day decided that KJR should have an FM affiliate in Seattle. Legend holds that Lester went out to his Lincoln, parked outside the KJR studio on the West Waterway off Harbor Island, turned on his radio. It was on 95 AM. He hit the FM button, and the first station he heard was at 99.9, KISW. So that's the station he bought. Elwood Lippincott owned KISW. He built it as a hobby in 1950, and on weekends and days off, he would play classical music, largely for his neighbors in the North End. In 1969, K. Smith Enterprises bought KISW from Elwood Lippincott, and the whole station inventory appeared on one page, typewritten, double-spaced, with entries such as 1 transmitter, 1 typewriter, 1 microphone, 2 turntables. Then K. Smith applied for a power increase, moved the transmitter, and requested permission from the FCC to change the format to rock and roll. Pat O'Day even went on the air on KISW and asked listeners to please support the sponsors of the classical program if they wanted to continue to hear that kind of music on 99.9. Then one day, unceremoniously, Prokofiev's Three Oranges Suite ended, and Jimi Hendrix's Purple Haze came on, full blast, prompting all 65 of KISW's listeners to turn off their radios and write letters to Pat O'Day, promising to buy their burgers at the Big Wheel In-N-Out on Aurora and support their other sponsor, whose name they didn't remember, if they could just please go back to classical music. In the beginning, the staff at KISW was Bob Bingham, sales manager, Lee Michaels, program director, and myself. I was the jazz program director and midday host. I worked 7 days a week for 4 years. I think I started on April Fool's Day in 1971. I was 19. 1971 was a landmark year for many reasons. The Vietnam War was winding down. The voting age had just been lowered to 18 to accommodate those who were being drafted. All in the Family debuted on CBS, introducing socially conscious programming to U.S. audiences. And the Billboard Hot 100 was still dominated by Bread, the Carpenters, Bobby Sherman, the Osmonds, the Partridge Family, Perry Como, Andy Williams, Helen Reddy, and Tom Jones. Audiences were tired of the same old sappy songs rehashed again and again. They wanted musicality and poetry, and they looked for it on FM. Alice Cooper, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Mountain, Santana, Rush, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Ike and Tina Turner, The Temptations, Doobie Brothers, Steely Dan, and Elvin Bishop were climbing the charts, along with the Doors and the Allman Brothers. Jim Morrison joined the 27 Club in Paris in 1971. At the same time that Intel was delivering the first microprocessor, Bill Gates and Paul Allen were writing BASIC and listening to KISW. I was KISW's first full-time employee. I'm Joe Coburn. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That was Joe Coburn, KISW's first ever on-air personality, talking about the beginning of KISW 50 years ago.
I'm still complaining about the fact that we don't play classical music.
Well,
I won't eat at Bob's In-N-Out Big Boy.
That's
place.
Big Wheel In-N-Out. Come on. Go check them out. I actually want to go see. I'd love to be able to go check out what Big Wheel In-N-Out was all about back then. Today, we do celebrate the 50th anniversary of KISW, and it only makes sense to start our show with what Joe said was the first song ever played by KISW. Jimmy and Purple Haze on The Rock.
BJ and Migs, mornings on The Rock, 99.9 KISW.
Wenatchee is gorgeous in the spring with its lush green rolling hills, abundant wildflowers everywhere, and the views of the Columbia River. The local food scene offers an abundant selection of authentic international cuisines featuring the unique farm-fresh ingredients of the region. Wenatchee is also home to award-winning wines, handcrafted hard ciders, and a talented handful of local brewers producing fine craft beers. Visit Wenatchee, the heart of Washington State.
New on Curiosity Stream. Deformed trees, mutated wildlife, and no humans for miles. 10 years after the disaster at Fukushima, see what this irradiated ecosystem can teach us about nuclear fallout on Radioactive Forest. Plus, looking for the most diverse marine life on the planet? Dive into the Coral Triangle and experience a frenzy of wildlife you've got to see to believe on nature's greatest secret. It's all on Curiosity Stream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit curiositystream.com.
$20 million, $19 million, $6 million. These are all awards recovered for clients of Phillips Law Firm. To win big, you have to fight big. And Phillips Law has been fighting the too-big-to-fail insurance industry for decades. Not every case will have a multi-million-dollar outcome, but Phillips Law will fight just as hard to recover the outcome you deserve. If you or a loved one has been injured in a car accident or on the job, call or click today at 1-800-JUSTICE or visit justiceforyou.com.
99.9 KISW, The Rock of Seattle, celebrating 50 years of The Rock. That's right, it is our 50th anniversary weekend, brought to you by Palace Law. Here's what you need to do, by the way. You need to go to KISW.com and check out our new KISW 50th merch in the Rock Shop.
I'm at the Rock Shop right now, and some of these things, BJ, are pretty dang sweet. From T-shirts to beanies to keep your head warm, trucker caps, hooded sweatshirts, like the zip-ups. Lots of cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
baseball rock tees.
I'm rocking mine right now, as a matter of fact, and I love that they put them in the gold. You know, because gold is your 50th anniversary color, so the Rock is in gold. That
gold, baby.
Oh, it's looking sweet. Got myself a hat already, Steve. Oh yeah. You know what? I'm gonna be rocking some of these soon. So you can as well. Go to the Rock Shop, go to KISW.com, check out the merch. And of course, it's our 50th. So we are sharing stories all day from KISW alum, rock stars, and other celebrities. And we want to hear from you. Call us at 206-421-ROCK. You can also text us at 77999. Want to hear from you. And of course, we're going to hear from a lot of cool people. And we have our first person that we're going to talk to today who, if you know anything about me, you know anything about him, you know that, man, very, very special in my life.
BJ, we are celebrating the 50-year anniversary of KISW all morning, and this is a very exciting time because we're going to chat with a man that went from Twisted Tunes to Getting Naked with Listeners. He left a lasting impression on our KISW audience. Please welcome to the show, Bob Rivers.
Yeah, it's good to have you on because we didn't just want to get like the people that had the impact. We want to get obscure hosts on the Rock as well and give them some time to shine. You did so much for this radio station in the 10 years plus that you were here, really. And so your memories, what would you call your greatest memories? Because I think of things, but you might even have different ones than all of us here think are the great memories.
You alluded to nude stock.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know, one day out of our crazy collective Bob, Spike, and Joe brainstorming, we said, what if we held a concert and everybody was naked? And if you tried to do that today, there would just be so many legal ramifications and worries. But back then, everyone was like, well, that's very, how would you do this? And there was in Issaquah what used to be called a nudist colony. And so we set it up there. We invited a bunch of bands. We quickly hired a helicopter so that we could form a giant KISW logo from the sky. Back then, that was a thousands of dollars promotional expense. Today, it's a $200 drone to do the same thing. Yeah. At the beginning of nude stock, everybody's a little edgy. And it's like, there was a certain amount of, we're going to see some naked people of the opposite sex.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not even going to be doing anything wrong. How could this be? And what was so interesting about that is we are born this way. Humanity messes itself up with all kinds of boxes we put ourselves in, all with the good intention of being nice to people and respecting them. Nude stock went off without a hitch. I mean,
was it cold out?
It's a good question because it was held on September 26th.
Oh, so it was cold out.
Oh, and September 26th can go one of two ways. I mean, it can be pouring rain and 40 degrees, or it can be the kind of 76-year-old, we still have one more gasp of summer. Fortunately, it was a beautiful day in the mid-70s. People were even swimming.
Let's talk about music, because that's a thing that you were a big, big lover of, making your own or creating a space where unique music could happen. So, favorite concert?
Well, there are so many of them. This is so hard to answer. But that's hard as you get older. Stop me if I already told you the story.
In more ways than one.
I mean, the Nirvana MTV concert shortly before the tragic end of Kurt Cobain. I went to that show, and then seeing Pearl Jam at the off-ramp playing in a little bar for how many people? It was like maybe 1995 or 6. And maybe there were 150 people jammed in there. That was incredible. But also the concerts at my house.
Yeah, this is another insane thing that I thought, this guy, and he was able to make this happen, bringing people to your house, like bands, established bands, to come play at your house.
Well, because I made Twisted Tunes, then I met all of these incredible world-class musicians. The thought occurred when I heard that Blue Oyster Cult was playing at the Firehouse in Ballard.
Oh, man.
First off, I felt bad for Blue Oyster Cult. I think somebody should invent some Indian gaming casinos and pay these guys some real money, which eventually happened.
That's right. The Firehouse was the place where a lot of bands sadly went to die.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so we called the Firehouse and we said, hey, and by the way, even at that, they weren't selling a ton of tickets. And so we called the Firehouse and we said, what if Blue Oyster Cult recorded a garage concert for KISW live, and we invited some listeners out, and we played it on the air as a hype for that show. Well, the very first time we did that, and I think Blue Oyster Cult was one of the first, they drove down to our house, they set up amplifiers in our living room. You know, the stage was the garage, neighbors came over, we invited about a dozen listeners, and I recorded it on a 24-track tape deck.
Damn. Wow.
And I remember we lost a figurine on a shelf in our living room because as they were playing Godzilla, the thing kept shaking and shaking, and this little glass figurine fell on the floor. Nice. And my wife was a little bit pissed.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah. Once you do that once, then you'd say to the next band, hey, Blue Oyster Cult. And by the way, that night at the Firehouse, you couldn't get in. Every band that played there after that, they would say, but you got to do this thing for KISW.
Bob, I know what you've done for this station, what the station has done for this area, and thank you for everything that you did to make these 50 years amazing.
Before I say adieu, and again, much gratitude to everyone over the years at KISW for staying true to the mission of really rocking. I also can't leave without saying that without Spike O'Neill and Downtown Joe, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Those guys, were, to me, they were the show. I was the animal trainer and conductor. And so brilliant and such great comedic timing. Everything I know about comedy, I'd learned by working with them. So we had a vibe and a groove going on, aided by meeting really awesome people at radio conventions like yourself, because we were influenced by you, BJ, that when the time came for us to move, you need to go to a station that's a little older. It seemed so logical that you would be the morning show host at KISW. And if you think about it, since we arrived there have been only 3 radio shows there, and I don't think any of them suck at all.
Yeah. Look, if folks still want to hear the magic of Bob, Spike, and Joe, they can, right?
Yeah, we have a little podcast. Just go to bobrivers.com. You can get a link to the podcast, and much, much appreciated. And really, it's all for love and all for fun, and so much nostalgia about some of the greatest radio ever made at KISW.
Man, I cannot tell you how much I love that dude. He's meant everything to my career, and he really, really has. It takes somebody in his position to take time out for somebody else who that maybe doesn't get the recognition, or sometimes is an idiot and doesn't know how to really make his career good. Yeah. Bob did so much for me. And I'm happy he was our first guest here. We're taking your calls as well at 206-421-ROCK. You can also text us at 77999 in celebration of our 50th anniversary. Let's go to Charlie in Seattle. Charlie, you are on the Rock.
Hey, how you guys doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Charlie.
Crystal clear.
All righty. Hey, like I say, happy anniversary.
Thank you, sir.
Come August, it'll be 40 years that I've been listening to you guys.
Wow, dude, that is a long time. Thank you for being around that long. Anything stick out in your brain? Because we want to hear from you guys telling us what you find that was special that when you were listening.
Yeah, 40 years. What's a favorite memory of yours?
Back in the days, you guys used to have local gigs for bands around the area. And I got a rock sticker that was signed by one of the guys from KISW. And a little confused that it says KISW Rock 100.
Yeah, that was before the digital days when you just, it was like roundabout. We're close to 100, so they said bill it as being FM 100.
Yeah. That's the oldest memory I've got of you guys.
That's awesome.
It's been great. What's going on with the guys from the men's club? They were rocking yesterday.
Yeah, they'll be rocking again this afternoon.
That's right, Charlie. Oh, yeah. All day long. Ryan Castle in the men's room, or even the men's club, which is a brand new show, apparently. and Taryn, all day long, we're going to be celebrating our 50th. So really, stick with us from now until the goats go home at basically Taryn's house. Well, there is that, too.
There you go.
We do have another interview, and also happens to be another person who's been instrumental in my career.
BJ, we're celebrating 50 years on the Rock all day today. KSW, 50 years on the air. And here's a man that's a big part of our KSW family. He is the Chief Programming Officer for Entercom, the company that signs our checks, BJ.
That's right.
It's Pat Paxton.
Hey, Pat, welcome, man.
Thank you, BJ. I got to start off by saying, for a couple of guys who have been on the radio for 50 years, you guys look fantastic. You guys look great.
But, Pat, you're a person that pretty much anybody listening to The Rock has no idea, like, who is this Pat Paxton guy? I thought it would be really cool to talk to you because getting to 50, like Steve said, is a big thing, and you are a big part of that, and our listeners don't even know you exist, and we wanted to let them know here's a guy who really, really helped make it happen, our Chief Programming Officer. And Pat, what was it? I mean, what was it about our station that you quickly recognized and you were like, all right, man, we have got to preserve this. That's a fact.
I go back with this brand a long, long time. And by the way, I don't have a lot to do with this at all. I mean, I appreciate all your kind words, but really the talent that this brand has created and supported and, kind of watched bloom into their own living huge things has been such a joy and such a pleasure. And so again, you start with the Rivers many, many years ago. Howard obviously was part of the brand for a few years, and then you guys came in. Here's what I'll say about you guys. One of the many great things I can say about you guys is when Howard Stern went away, there's a lot of radio stations around the country trying to figure out what they're going to do. They put on their best talent, or they hired Adam Carolla, or David Lee Roth, rather, took Howard's place, and then Carolla, David Lee Roth. and they rode that wave, and everybody tried something, but virtually every single one of those radio stations got killed after Howard left. Many changed format. The replacement personalities got horrible ratings. Nobody was listening to them. Yet in Seattle, we replaced Howard with you guys, and we didn't just not go down. We went up. We went up, and Howard was huge. And not only did we not lose listeners, we gained listeners once you guys took over. And that's got to be the only situation like that in the country, the only place where that happens. So,
with your time, Pat, any high points or maybe low points or both that you remember in your duration of working with The Rock?
You know, I remember once many years ago, back we owned, many of your listeners may not know, we owned KISW at one point. But I don't know which brand you guys were on at the time, but I do know that a lot of a small handful of KISW employees, there were certain things going on in the studio that you guys were in.
Now that was on the Buzz, at least. That wasn't on The Rock, anyway.
All right, well, okay, but it was still your show.
Yeah,
this is what I'm not saying. This was a hard time. This guy made me proud because if the news guy couldn't take it, you knew it had to be entertaining.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. We may have had some exotic dancers parading through a really professional newsroom. I mean, I really feel bad for them because that's not what they signed up for. But of course, we were all working in the same space, and we needed our special guests to come in. They really,
I can think of worse things to happen to me in the workspace than exotic dancers walking by. So I wouldn't feel too bad about it. Good. So look, but honestly, I honestly cannot sit here and think of any regrets or any moments where I was thinking, what are we doing here? I think all great shows have to push the line, have to figure out where the line is. And you don't know, I probably shouldn't say this because, all the younger talent are going to hear this and do dumb things. But, if you don't go over that line a little bit once in a while, you don't know where that line is. If I didn't have you guys, I wouldn't have anybody to live vicariously through. So I got to keep you around so I can have some fun in this job.
Thank you, Pat. We appreciate that. Pat Paxton, thank you for being with us, buddy.
Thank you, guys. Hopefully see you soon.
Yeah, I remember that I got in trouble a lot in my early days here in Seattle, and he was one of the people where most people who are wearing a suit and tie go, got to get rid of this guy. He is a mess. He's going to he's out of his mind. Pat would just pull me aside and go, look, you got a lot of ability. Can you figure it out? Because we love you in this company. Can you just figure it out? But very, very good dude. And I wouldn't be here right now if not for guys like him. So glad to give him some recognition as we are celebrating today the 50th anniversary of KISW, and we want to hear your memories too. Call in at 206-421-ROCK. You can also text us at 77999. It's the KISW 50th anniversary weekend.
Today's podcast was brought to you by Travis Gagne, bankruptcy attorney. Here's another question from a listener. If I can't afford to pay my bills, how am I going to afford attorneys and bankruptcy fees?
One of the things people ask me all the time as a bankruptcy lawyer is that how am I going to pay all these fees and costs because I'm here because I can't afford to pay my bills? And of course we understand that. I mean, being in the bankruptcy field. But one of the things to remember is that if you decide, once you make the decision to file bankruptcy, you can stop paying on all of the creditors that are going to be included in the bankruptcy, and those are the funds that you can use that you have been paying your creditors to pay your attorney fees and court costs to get your case filed. And once your case is filed, you're not going to have most of those payments anymore.
Thanks, Travis. If you have more questions about bankruptcy, you can reach out to Travis anytime at ChooseTheRightChapter.com. That's ChooseTheRightChapter.com. Thanks for listening.
Wenatchee is gorgeous in the spring with its lush green rolling hills, abundant wildflowers everywhere, and the views of the Columbia River. The local food scene offers an abundant selection of authentic international cuisines featuring the unique farm-fresh ingredients of the region. Wenatchee is also home to award-winning wines, handcrafted hard ciders, and a talented handful of local brewers producing fine craft beers. Visit Wenatchee, the heart of Washington State.
New on Curiosity Stream. With superior armies comes superior weapons. How has innovation mechanized the battlefield? From bullets to battleships and everything in between. It's machinery of warfare. Plus, from the gross to the gourmet. See how that in-flight meal lands on your tray table. on secrets of your airline food. It's all on CuriosityStream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit CuriosityStream.com.